Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. It's been a great run with you guys. I've had so much fun documenting so many Fender instruments that came from Japan. When I tried to order my next batch of guitars after we got through reviewing these, I was met with an unfortunate message. Fender Japan is cutting down on letting dealers export their guitars to people like me, who want to buy them and release them within the American markets. And, you know, just share the love for all the weird, quirky, Japanese exclusive models. So, is this the last made in Japan exclusive guitar that I'm going to feature on my show? Well, unfortunately, nah, I'm just kidding, guys. At least right now. Still, it would be very beneficial for you guys to, you know, if you're in Japan, you happen to watch my show and you love seeing them get documented here, maybe send a message over to Fender Japan and say how much you love this, because they are telling dealers to not sell the guitars. But until then, my dealer has just asked that I don't show the serial numbers and things like that. It's getting dicey here, so let's enjoy it while it lasts, because Fender doesn't pay me to make these videos. If they sponsor one, it's usually Fender USA. These ones I buy just because I like quirky guitars. And today we're actually documenting a signature bass that is a reissue of one of the quirkiest 80s models that was ever made. I was so happy to see this thing get a reissue. And which one are we talking about here? Well, you can just barely make out our beautiful little iceberg here. Today, we're gonna check out, oh yes, the Fender Katana. Look at this goofy, pointy headstock. I absolutely adore that thing. Like, it's just a regular Fender headstock, right? Except for they've cut it down a little bit right here. They don't have the normal ball end that you see down here. But wait until you see this whole body. Look at this thing. I call it the iceberg, but you might call it neck heavy. That's for sure. Wow. That body weighs nothing, and that is a super heavy neck on this thing. But you've got our strap button over here. You got the other one down here. It's just one pickup on this guy, the split single coil, kind of like a P bass. And oh my goodness, Fender Japan does it again with that luscious looking rosewood fretboard. That was the same way on the last one that we had reviewed. But before we talk too much more about this, I gotta tell you about the guy who got them to reissue this as a made in Japan exclusive model. Alright, so the mad lad who reissued this, his name is Hama Okamoto. His real name's actually Akumi Hamada. He's actually the son of two other pretty famous people over in Japan, but he is the bassist of the group called Okamoto. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But outside of his band, he also has other projects, so feel free to look him up online. I'd personally never heard of him before, but this is actually his second signature bass from Fender. The first one was just a regular P bass, as far as I could tell. There might be some strange spec that I'm not familiar with on it. But for the second, he wanted something really crazy and out there. And I mean, look at this thing. The Fender Katana comes back. So let's talk about the Katana in case you're not familiar. I'm not going to go into too much in-depth information because I still want to review an original Katana one day. But back in 1985, these things were designed by Dan Smith to compete with the other bizarre shapes of the time. I mean, there were so many freaky guitars in the 80s and late 70s. But despite being introduced in 85, they were discontinued in 86. They didn't last too long, but they had Fender and Squier variants on this. And when I first saw this thing, I thought, oh my goodness, a Katana bass. I thought it was just a guitar. Apparently there were Katana basses as well, but they were only under the Squier brand name. So for all intents and purposes, this is the very first Katana bass by Fender to have ever existed, you know, outside of the Squier brand name. But back then the Squiers were actually very, very, very good. But if you want something that strictly says Fender on it, this is your only option as far as a bass goes. Why do they call it a katana? Because they have a Japanese sword called a katana on the headstock right there. Pretty cool. And it proudly reads, Made in Japan. Now, if you're not into Fender USA stuff, there was a 2016 master-built version of a Fender Katana. That's the guitar, so you could check that out if you could find it. But anyways, these guys were offered at 143,550 yen. So, I mean, roughly 1,300 USD once you add in shipping, import duties, taxes, other various fees. You're looking at roughly between like 1,650 to 1,800 to get one of these in the States today. And they come in these three beautiful finishes that you've been seeing on the screen here: black, pink, and Olympic white. So this is the Olympic white version. Since I always just imagined this as the iceberg guitar, I thought it was very fitting to get that. I really love the faux tortoiseshell pickguard that they have on here. I mean, the pickups look a little bit wonky, how they're so angled, but is that just how bass players do it? I'm not sure. That's not the first time I've seen that though on these Japanese basses. Remember, you can also check out the Gino Jazz bass, which was kind of cool. But you might have noticed, not only did I get one, but I got two. I did not get all three colors because one of them, I just thought it was kind of boring, but that was after I had filmed that other Supersonic episode when I kind of ended up liking that finish. Because sometimes I have a hard time choosing which finish I should do the review and demo on, and occasionally a guitar will look better in the flesh than it ever does in stock photos. So the other color I got is arguably the only new one to this whole body style, and oh yes, here it is. That, my friends, is the shell pink. I mean, come on guys, if you're gonna get one of these to gig, why would you not get shell pink? It's so out there, it's so cool. Now the fretboard on this one, it looks good, but not quite as good as on that one. Like, if this would have had this style of pickguard on here, I think it would have been better. Uh-oh. Oh, that's unfortunate. This one got damaged in shipping. But I won't let that ruin my day. So, which one do I like better? I seriously thought I was going to do the review and demo on the shell pink. However, it's all about the Olympic white to me. That nice off-white finish with that cool pickguard, with that way better fretboard there. Yeah, that's the cooler one, but I am appreciative that I brought this one in just to see it in the flesh. The other black one, it didn't do much for me because it was just the ebony finish. Those always show fingerprints and stuff. But let's go ahead and throw this one on the workbench and take an individual look at its parts and icebergy specs. Inside the Katana base. Okay, so the base is made out of basswood, but something that makes these a little bit higher end than a normal made in Japan guitar are the electronics have been upgraded. So this split single coil is actually a Fender USA product here. They have it on this brass base plate. It's soldered onto it right there, but these are USA pickups. They call them the Pure Vintage 63 split coil, so it's like a reissue style pickup. I don't know a lot about basses. I haven't demoed enough to know what's really a great sounding bass pickup versus other ones, but it's nice that we do get higher end electronics. And I thought this backplate was kind of cool. I haven't seen that before. But as far as the routes within the body, very basic, very clean. I guess there's a little bit of a chip out right there, but everything's looking okay. Now on the underside of the pickguard here, it's actually a black layer, and then you've got the white layer and then the tortoiseshell layer. So that's kind of a cool sandwich profile that you see on the side right there. And you get the metal knurled knobs here with what looks to be 250K pots. Now as far as the bridge, it's a pretty basic setup here. So it just screws into the body using 5 screws like so, and then they actually put one of those vintage covers over top of it, which really transforms the look of this thing from like a budget level guitar to, oh yeah, that's a sweet vintage piece. But the one downside to them installing this at the factory is, say you don't want to have it. Your finish is impressed by it, literally. So even if you take it off, you're still gonna have it on there. I mean, regardless, you're gonna have these screw holes, so you're probably better off just leaving it on at this point, but that would be something that'd be good to know in case you wanted to order one of these. And that little route right here is just how they ground off the bridge. Let's go ahead and look at the contours of this body. So I call it the iceberg because it's a very, iceberg-like structure here. It's a completely flat side that's angled right here. Then it rounds off and then just kind of does the same thing here. You got a little whoopity-whoop right there, and it does the same thing on the edge here. So you don't always see all the contours of this bass. I'm hoping it's going to be pretty comfortable because this is where your arm rests against it, so that should be comfy, even if you do have to support the neck. That's what I am fearing, because this thing feels incredibly neck heavy, but I haven't put it on a strap yet, so don't count it out yet. But moving on from the basswood body, we have a maple neck with a rosewood fretboard. The style of frets that they call these are wide, and there's 20 of them on this neck. And what's kind of cool is that this is not a short scale bass, but not a long scale either. They call this a medium scale bass, 32 inches. Let's double check their math here. Yeah, that measures up for me, 32-inch scale length there. So a little bit about basses here from my research. Short scale is 30 inches or less. Long scale is 34 inches, like most Fenders are. So this one's like right in between there. It's that sweet spot. That's what made it different from his first signature guitar, other than, you know, it just stands out and somebody needed to make Fender reissue these things. And it has that really vintage 7¼ inch fretboard radius to this. So if you like the vintage radii, you're going to love this. But Fender Japan, teach Fender USA how to do this. I don't know what you guys do to your rosewood fretboards, but they look just fantastically oiled. I think somebody in the comments section was saying like it looks like they did a special polishing job to the actual fretboard itself. It's definitely possible. They're doing something to it, but you can really see that rounded radius on this just by the light, the way that it reflects off of it. And this thing sports a bone nut. Let's go ahead and grab these neck dimensions. Starting at the nut, we get 1.61 inches and a wide 2.25 by the 12th. Now it's unique. They call this a U-shaped neck profile. So that measures 0.87 at the first fret and a chunky 0.99 by the 12th. Here's that neck profile on the contour gauge. So first fret, 12th fret. I mean, wow, that's a very wide neck. So they call it a U-shaped neck. It almost looks more like C to D, but I mean, I'll trust Fender with what they say. I don't know, now that I'm feeling it, I was expecting U to like, you know, be the normal U, fill your hands. This definitely feels more like a D-shaped neck to me. I mean, it's got a little bit of roundedness right here. So that's my thoughts on it anyways. Here's what the headstock looks like. Again, it's pretty much just the regular Fender style, but instead of having the ball and the whoop, they kind of inverted it, cut some of that off. It's kind of freaky looking from here, but it's cool at the same time, right? So truss rod adjustment is not up here. In case you missed it, it is right here. So you might have to take the neck off to do truss rod adjustments. You might be able to get a tool in there just to do it. It could be a pain in the butt to do a professional setup on it. But anyways, you've got your string tree disc right here, and we'll take a up close look at the Fender Katana logo, made in Japan. I'm still hopeful that we'll have a guitar reissue from USA or Mexico or something when we hit their 40th anniversary, since we saw things like the HM Strat get a reissue last year. Now moving on to the back side of the instrument. Surprisingly, no giant comfort cuts back here. It's all about the hard edge. So all the comforts are on the front of this bass. That's kind of interesting. Got a giant point there and a giant point down here. Your output jack is located on the bottom side of this with your strap button here, and strangely enough right there. Not the best location for it if you're trying to do super solos on your bass, because your hand's gonna hit it, but I mean you can just go over top of it too. It's not that big of a hindrance, but not the usual location for a strap button anyways. But that's what this bass is all about. It's about being quirky, about being different, standing out above the rest. It's cool to look at. This whole guitar is finished over in gloss. There's no satin, not even on the back of the neck. It is full on gloss. You've got the beautiful maple wood grain back here. No skunk stripe or anything like that for this construction. And the back of the headstock here, this is what the tuners look like. They come stock with these protective coverings over top of them so you don't get fingerprints and whatnot. And all of these will have a JD21 serial number, or if they make it into 2022, it would change to 22 in that case. But they're made in Japan, and they have a signature decal on the back for the artist that we talked about earlier. Last spec to capture is the weight, 7 pounds, 6.2 ounces on this example. Let's go ahead, plug it in, hear how it sounds. Keep in mind, I'm just running this directly through my audio interface. I don't have a proper bass amp. It's not going to be mic'd up. I don't have bass effects or anything like that. So anything that's in the demo, that's all added after the fact. I just wanted to share this cool reissue with you guys. So hopefully Fender reissues the guitar one for the 40th anniversary. All right, let's go ahead and do it. Alright, so here's the bass. As you guessed, it is neck heavy. However, the way that the strap buttons are right here and down here, it kind of creates a U shape. So it is semi-wet balanced, but it likes to fall forward a lot. So it's great that we have all of this arm space. It's not too incredibly uncomfortable just to keep your arm rested right there. But I'm playing sitting down today, not necessarily because of just the neck dive situation, but because I have to be by my computer. So let's go ahead and just get some basic tones out of this thing. Bass plays nice. Right? I know sometimes basses get like really high action up here. I mean, so far it feels comfortable to me. Maybe not as low as like a guitar, but... Now we'll try this effect called Fuzz Drive. Now that we know all about the Fender Katana bass, what are my final thoughts on this thing? I don't know. It's probably more of a novelty for the most part for many collectors. I mean, you have to kind of support it from the back with your stomach if you don't have your arms on it. And as far as, you know, gigging it, I mean, as long as you have your arm here, it's not that uncomfortable to play. It's very cool, jarring. You're gonna catch attention, especially if you play that shell pink one. I mean, the whole neck divey situation, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. But it's still not necessarily the most comfortable bass to play in the world, but it's a lot of fun. And I think that's the whole spirit behind the Katana and why it's kind of a cult classic at this point in time. So if you're looking for the best bass in the world, nah, probably not. But if you're looking for a cool blast from the past in the Fender iteration, it might be worth getting one of these things for your collection. It was definitely a lot of fun to check out. Even though I'm not much of a bass player, I thought these pickups sounded pretty good, even through my setup. The Pure Vintage series of pickups, I just love those things, especially on Jazz Masters. The Pure Vintage 65s, those are great pickups, but have nothing to do with this bass. Alright, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed checking out these quirky bass guitars with me today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care. As always, if you're interested in being the next owner of one of these demo guitars, you can check them out on my website, troglysguitarshow.com. There's some links in the description.